Everything happens for a reason. Everything ties in the way it's supposed to. You have to, again, adapt to what life is bringing you, and it's there for a reason. It's put in front of you for a reason. If you chase it and conquer it, then it just brings you complete satisfaction.
Welcome, everybody, to Nashville Drummers Podcast, episode 57.
Today's guest is Stefan Chippeaux. Many of you may know Stefan as a drummer in town and currently drum tech for Max Miller out with Bailey Zimmerman.
We just had a great conversation, and I really appreciated hearing how the common thread of his life seems to be, if I don't know how to do it, I'm excited to learn how to do it, especially if it has anything to do with my career or something possible for my career. The dude is not afraid to expand his horizons. He's not afraid of working hard. He's not afraid of learning new things or having to learn new things. Those things that might hold us back, this dude just runs right through them.
Yeah, not at all. And we talked a lot about being a sponge, being adaptable, which is vital for this career path, especially for what he's doing as a drum tech. I mean, you have to be. You have to learn on your feet. You have to go with the punches. And we talked about failing forward as well. Yeah. It was a really inspirational talk with Stefan. He's doing a lot of great work, so we're excited to share his journey with you all in episode 57.
If someone was making a burger offering and they're like, let's say it's, barbecue sauce, onion ring, Havarti.
Yeah,
you'd
great.
be like, I'm in, but just not cheddar.
Yeah, okay. Munster cheese, bring it on.
We're doing this whole podcast backwards. We normally end with food.
Yeah.
I like it.
Fun question. Yeah, I'm all for it.
It just felt like the right thing to do.
We're all, you're making us hungry here.
Anyway, here we are.
Here we are.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
welcome,
absolutely. Thank
Stefan Chippeaux. Is that how you say your last name?
Yep.
Is that French?
It is, yeah. I mean, my great grandfather was adopted into that last name, so it's not technically in my bloodline, but it's I'm assuming that's where it derives from. Yeah, it's like French Creole, I guess. Yeah,
very cool. Well, I think we first met. We were talking beforehand of how we first met. I think it was at the drum show. Mm-hmm. I think it was both drum shows. I want to say I saw you
first year and then the second.
Because you've been every
year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great event, man. I love going there. It's a great networking event. Like, I've been able to maintain so many relationships with all these big drum companies and stuff like that help keep me going on the road and keep me supplied with equipment and stuff like that. And it's like, how awesome is that to be able to just get in, face to face, get to talk with them, shake hands, that's how I got networked with Michael Berg from Husenberg. I mean, we have such a great relationship now, because he's such an old school guy that he wants handshake deals, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't respond to, social media interaction, if you don't know each other. So that was a great way to.
I met him this year. I'm in the market for cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
do it, dude.
It's exciting.
Yep. Yeah. It's the best in the biz.
So, I met Max Miller at the show as well. So that's maybe a good segue because you're coming off the road. Why don't we start there? I mean, that's kind of a recent gig for you, right? With that, with the Bailey Zimmerman camp.
Yeah, and I've been there 3 months now.
Yeah, as a drum tech.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, give us the how you got the gig story. And
yeah, so with that one, because I came from Billy Currington before that, and it kind of happened mid-transition. I knew Braden Griffith, who was the tour manager for Bailey. I knew him through Gary LeVox, who I was with before that, with Flats, and I was teching for Jim Riley then. Yep. And so it kind of backpedals a little bit to get to the current one, but yeah. So anyways, kind of transitioned through those, and then knew Braden through that, who was also a fellow drummer in the past. He mainly does the TM stuff now, but yeah. So I knew him, and then I got a text message one day, and he was like, "Hey, looking for a drum tech and guitar tech for a gig," and I knew he wasn't doing anything small, because he was doing the Wallen shows and everything, and. So from his socials and stuff. And I was like, well, I already was doing the Billy Currington thing. And so, so I was like, hey, I may be interested in it, if you're willing. And so he said it was a Bailey Zimmerman gig. And I was like, oh boy, so so we locked in numbers and everything and made it happen. And and then all of a sudden I was doing 70,000, fan stadiums and everything. And Wallen shows, Nickelback shows. It's just been a whirlwind.
I love just seeing between you, because their whole media team on that camp is incredible. Yeah. I'm sure you can attest to. But
Mason does a great job.
Yeah, I love just going through my feed. I know I'm going to see the office view either from you or from Max or from any of those guys. It's cool to see.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah, it's such a cool rig to work on too. We got a great rack design. It stays on the riser, rides in the truck like that, so I don't have to break it down every day. I'm just tightening up the wing nuts and stuff like that, and making sure everything's maintained, and then cleaning off all the pyro dust off of it, because we have a ton of pyro for our show and everything. So that's definitely how I start off my day every morning. Is once it gets off the truck, I wipe that rack down every day. Yeah, so get all the pyro stuff off.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we'll get into literally the nuts and bolts of the gig and all that, but where are you guys currently? We're recording this in September. You guys go on a little bit of a break. You go back out to finish.
So we're doing a one-off show this coming weekend with Kane Brown. So we're doing that. Then we have about, I think, 5 or 6 shows left through October. We'll be done October 20th. That's our last day, and then we have about 4 or 5 months off, and then we'll start rehearsals back up again for the new year, end of February.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Like, obviously, as musicians, we have rehearsals and we can do our homework. And as a drum tech, how do you go about, like, were you just thrown into that first rehearsal? Or did you come along like while they were in the middle of the tour? How did that process kind of work?
Yeah, it was crazy. So my first week with them was actually pretty nuts. And it didn't feel like it like at first. Because again, you just kind of like, you just do your job, and you go there, and all the rest of the craziness kind of like subsides and kind of evens out whenever you're kind of just kind of got the horse blinders on and you're kind of staying focused. And but my first week was CMA Fest week with them, and we did a private show for Chevy at Marathon Music Works, and that was a very like hush hush show because they didn't want to getting out, and then everyone, because all the fans were in town that weekend, so we didn't want the venue getting bum rushed or anything, so. So we had to keep that pretty hush. And then, so that was literally my first gig with them. The stuff came off the truck. I had never seen the drums before. I had seen photos of them and stuff like that, and I'd done a little bit of homework beforehand, of just getting to see what they look like, the configuration, and then obviously asking the questions from the previous tech he was kind of like a backline tech majority before, because our crew has expanded like 10 times, over the last couple months.
Yeah, he's been playing bigger and bigger shows every. Yeah,
it's been
it seems.
Yeah, absolute. We've been on rocket fuel for sure, and it's going to keep going that way. I didn't see the setup or anything. Saw a few photos, but I just I started taking stuff out of the cases and I just took over and made it my rig. That's the biggest thing to do with a gig like this, especially on this kind of level, is that you just have to make it your gig and be confident to just show up no matter the situation and just take over. Because that's how you maintain.
Well said.
Yeah,
well,
it's ballsy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're a player obviously as well, which we'll get into. Do you find it similar to like in that situation of basically just showing up to a Broadway gig? You don't know the players, you don't know the songs. You'll probably know the kit setup, and maybe not even that. Right?
Yeah,
but you have to, like,
if you're asking ahead of time on the drummer's page,
take command, right?
Yeah. It's that's so true, man. It's a great way to say it. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where you just have to adapt. Because if you're not willing to do that, or if you're not willing to be confident enough to do that, then that's when other guys that are lining up behind you to take that gig is going to take it, because you just got to show immediate confidence and make sure that all the rest of the crew guys and all the rest of the management team that you're working for the artists, because they have everything on the line, and you're strong as your weakest link, out on the road. So, so it's one of those things where you just got to take over and make it happen, no matter the circumstances. And that kind of stems from the Drum Paradise stuff too that I did back in the day with Harry McCarthy, is that I was doing all the, the studio stuff for all the A-list, studio guys and cats in town. And same thing, like you had to hold this consistent measure of excellence and like perfection, borderline pretty much as you could, because those sessions were relying on you to get stuff there at the studios on time, get it off the box trucks, move it in, and do all the cartage stuff to make sure that those were staying on time and making sure that those drummers had what they needed, because they just showed up and they had to be ready to rock and roll, because everyone knows time is money in that industry, specifically with the studio stuff. So that
sounds stressful.
It can be, man. It can be, especially when I was doing a couple of the runs on my own, because we would normally have 2 guys running those shifts, and that definitely helped. But I remember the one time specifically, I was parked at Sound Emporium, and that parking lot specifically is angled backwards. So I had the box truck parked like this, and I had all of Chris McHugh's stuff in there. And he has like 6 trunks worth of snare drums.
Yeah, right.
And so we have to stack them up on top of each other. And I remember once as soon as I loosened up that strap, that all the trunks started coming back at me. And so luckily I was able to catch them and push them on the sidewalls and everything. But yeah,
my heart would have sunk.
Yeah. I mean, because it's all the Craviotto stuff and everything, and
and it's Chris. It's freaking Chris.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a bit of a heart attack moment, but we made it through.
So tell us more about your time at Drum Paradise. And that was back in 2018? Is that when you first got to town?
Yes. Yeah. So that was a year into, I moved here in 2017.
Yep.
And then, so then that was my first musician, industry gig that I was super stoked about. That's what really prepped me for like all the success that I've had of the teching world now. That really like was my foundation to be able to show myself how to operate at a high excellence and a high rate of just providing fine, minute detail, like, services like that, and Harry obviously is an absolute icon in town. Yeah. He's the owner of Drum Paradise. He, teched for Keith Urban for almost his whole career. And now he retired, I think 2 years ago now. And yeah, just does the card stuff, but he started out in LA. And then, whenever I hopped on with them, it was such a different ball game. You know what I mean? Like it was an immediate, like I knew the gist of it, but you don't know until you actually do it, and you're just slinging the gear. And we had a whiteboard, chart of, the schedules for all the recording studios in town. And, there's this is Nashville, you know what I mean? I mean, every corner there's a recording studio, so there was a lot of, we stayed really, really busy.
I was gonna say the need is endless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How big was the team? Were you one of a few people doing?
Job? Mainly I don't know what they do now because it's been quite a few years, but I know we mainly had just 2 guys, running the gear and stuff around. We were pretty much 2 full-timers at the time. And then obviously they had Harry, and then they had another guy who was doing management as well, and mainly doing all the booking and making sure that we were going to the right places at the right time. And they operate in blocks for the sessions and everything like that. So they'll do like a morning, midday, and then evening sessions. So you just got to get the gear there before, sometimes we would drop off the night before to get there for the morning sessions. So yeah, it was just all of that kind of,
Wow.
Scheduling and planning, and just making sure that we were on top of our stuff, and then remembering each of the guys' specific setups, and we of course had like,
that's just wild. It's wild. There's this network of, like you said, the fact that need exists should be obvious, but because I've never used a service like that, I'm like, well, I haven't had to access that. But of course, guys who are way above my pay grade have been accessing that forever. They would want access to something like that. That would make their lives so much easier. Oh my God, it's genius. It's brilliant. It's really cool.
It's a great concept too, because Harry would incorporate, if they were doing X amount of sessions a week, they didn't have to pay for cartage. So so it was great, because then the players are even getting the benefit of not having to come out of pocket for the services, because they're doing a certain amount of sessions a week that then the recording studios are then paying the cartage fees. So then that's how the company's getting paid. And then the musicians don't have to be out of pocket for the cartage fees.
That is smart.
So it's a great business, great idea, and I thoroughly enjoyed working for that, because like I said, it immediately set me up for having to operate at a high level and being able to maintain that and know what it meant to do it on that kind of level. It was big names.
They've got high expectations.
Because
they've got other people who obviously they could offer that same thing to pretty much right away, like you said. That's competence encouraged. Always.
We talked to Luke Sumner. Shout out to Luke. We love you.
Nice.
He was telling us like kind of his transition out of college. He was doing some cartage in town as a way also to kind of network. So you mentioned this was like your first gig, like professional gig moving into Nashville. So talk us through like, what was your mindset coming to town? Like, were you trying to was drum teching like the end goal, or were you trying to be a player?
Man, I I don't really know how to answer that. I kind of go back and forth. I've always, of course, us being our own drummers, we set up our own gear, you know, if we don't have the privilege of getting to have it done for us, if we're on that kind of level. So naturally, we're all our own drum techs anyways. Yeah. So I've always been doing that. And then I guess I never really realized that it could be such a fortuitous thing that it could be a great job opportunity. Like I didn't know that was a thing until I moved here. Yeah. You know, coming from Tampa, Florida, I was playing at the theme parks and stuff down there. Obviously, again, catered to the drums myself and stuff like that. And, you know, came in, rechanged heads and stuff on the park kit. So I was already doing it, you know, and I was obviously good at it. I just didn't know that it was going to turn into this, you know? And so that was a really cool thing. So to answer that question, like, I guess it wasn't really the end goal. Obviously, I still strive to be playing behind the kit, you know, like, and that's really my dream and my end goal of what I want to achieve, you know. But I'm so happy to be where I am right now. It gives me so much joy to be able to like set up the gear, see it come into play, and then see it played through the show, and like knowing that I was a part of creating drum tones and like and making them sound good, making them look good, you know, like, and that's so rewarding, you know. And that's one big thing that I just love getting to experience out on the road, and what has been such a huge blessing that I never knew was going to happen. And like I never thought it was going to be a thing, but now that it is my life in our current state, it's amazing that it's like getting to see it happen in real time, you know, and getting to use the talents that I have on the other side of getting to set them up and do what I was already doing for myself, but doing it for another drummer and getting to watch them smile and have a great time on stage, you know, because they know that I have their back, you know?
Yeah. And like you said, you literally had a physical part in the success of the show. Yeah. For the fans, for the end customer, for, you know, for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, cool, man. Right? Yeah. It's just a small piece, but it's such a big piece, you know, for me, you know, because it's one of those things that you just don't really get to see until all of a sudden you take a step back and then you look at the crowd sing all the lyrics back and everything. And just like all the wave of emotions that the artists go through of getting to have those special moments of songs that they wrote in their bedroom or, you know, that turned into #1 songs on the radio. It's the same thing. Like, you know, you get kind of tied up and emotional over it because you're a small piece of the motion.
So all the hard work and stress and details. You can see it play out in real time. Like
late nights, early mornings. Yep.
Well, it's like, because I know for me as a drummer, I'm very type A. When I'm on a gig, I'm like going through my backpack and I'm like, do I have extra headphones? I have extra cables, extra sticks. I'm going through everything. Where's the drum key? Like everything's got to be just right. Even like I'll check something like 3 times. Yeah. I'm sure that's like times 100 for you. Like kind of walk us through like the process of the actual gig itself and what those checks are for you. Yeah. That's a great question. So I mean, the biggest thing is like, and of course the drums they have so many components whenever you're setting them up. You know, you have the wing nuts down to the tension rods to, I mean, even the little lug nuts that are inside of the lugs that you don't even see that can break through because they have a little tension, you know, spiral ring that gets pressed up to keep those in there. I mean, I literally, before I started getting seriously into the teching world, like I literally took my whole kit apart piece by piece and just like parts that I've never seen before that were inside of the shells and everything that I just took for granted because I just would change heads and not realize that I was screwing that into this or A went into B. And like, so I took everything apart. That's a fun practice. I think everybody should do that. Yeah. Take down your entire kit. Yeah. Like, to the bolts. Yeah. Yep. And then can you put it back together correctly?
That you had the wherewithal to just do that. Like, I need to know this thing better.
Yeah, dude. It's if I was going to do this at a high level and if I was going to get paid the money that these artists are willing to pay and treat me right and like they give it their all on stage, like I'm going to do the same thing behind the scenes, you know? You know, because it's the right thing to do, you know? And it makes me feel better about how I can handle situations because one of the biggest things while the drummers are on stage is we know something's going to go wrong. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when. And you already have to be thinking about a solution for that problem before it happens.
Yeah.
Because if you all of a sudden go deer in the headlights on stage while you're on the side and the drummer's, for example, like, you know, Max's shoelaces. Max's shoelace got caught on the beater this weekend, and it locked up his right foot. So I had to run up there really quick and
untie his shoes.
You know, it was stuck. It's so funny because, talking about the little pieces, he puts these little brass weights, and I think these beaters are made by head, and you can unscrew the tip on the side, on the beater side, and then put the brass weights on the inside to make it heavier or lighter. Well, those little brass weights have these little hangnails on them that the metal is shaved. So it clipped onto it literally grabbed his shoelace and hung onto there. And it was the most weird thing, you know, like, but it happened.
There's not a double kick part there. That's weird. Why is he doing that?
Yeah, exactly. So it's
actually,
just one of those things,
why is there no kick right now? What's going on?
Yep. So so it's one of those things, man. You just gotta be ready to fire.
We've probably all seen the video, the drummer that loses the click and the drum tech comes out and starts
tapping his leg.
Have you had any of those extreme scenarios?
Nope, haven't had those. I mean, there's been times where ears have gone out, but then the monitor guy usually just revamps the pack.
I mean, you're not having to do any playback or monitoring, right? They have separate crew for that.
Yeah, we're really.
Are you
blessed,
still setting up electronics as part of the kit?
So the only electronics we have as the kit is very minimalistic, at least for this year. We'll probably incorporate some more for next year. But I mean, we're just using an SPD to the left, and he's not even firing any samples off of it or anything. It's literally just for MIDI control for firing, time code at the end, for firing the last track. And we just have a play and a stop button on there, and then a fast forward and backward, and I mean, but other than that, we have a playback tech that does the rest of it. And it was it's kind of a hybrid setup from when they used to, because it's been such a rocket ship of a gig. It kind of was from the past when Max was firing everything himself. Yeah. So it's been kind of like we don't really need it anymore.
That's the dream, is to, you don't have to be firing anything yourself.
It's like a good problem to have, But so it's very minimalistic electronics, which is great too. So we'll probably incorporate some more like trigger stuff for next year and do like the single kind of roll-in TD pads and stuff like that. Is at least what I'm looking forward to. Yeah. Do like snaps and claps and stuff like that.
Everybody loves some snaps and claps.
Yep.
Who doesn't?
How do you get the perfect Nashville kick drum tone? It starts with a Lowboy Leather Daddy bass drum beater. This leather-faced beater occupies the sonic space between felt and wood beaters. It's punchy enough to cut through the mix on those 4-on-the-floor barn burners with the warmth you need for slow ballads. Okay, but who plays a Leather Daddy? Garrett Goodwin from Carrie Underwood's band uses one. Lee Brice drummer Donnie Marple plays a pair. Walk down Broadway any night of the week and you're going to hear one. In Nashville, you can test drive a Lowboy beater at Drumbox and grab one at Forks, Drum Supply, or Nelson's. Check out lowboybeaters.com to learn more.
So you roll up to the gig. You said you're checking all the bolts, the lugs. Mm-hmm. What's kind of your next? Do you have a priority? I mean, obviously, like the shells, checking the drums.
So it's kind of based on the trailer pack, honestly. And when you start getting into this league too, like you have to think about that as well. Of like for my show load out, like my case is one of the first on the semi. So I have to make sure that those drums are broken down, the shells are in the vault, as quick as I can, because they're ready to get sent to the trailer. Yeah. Because that holds everything else up.
Yeah, they don't want to be waiting on you.
So backline's first on the truck. So the rack is on the back end, so that comes off first off the backline truck, and then my drum vault is actually all the way to the front of the truck, so I have to wait for that to come off. So that gives me some time to then detail the whole rack and everything, wipe it down with the Music Nomad. Shout out to Music Nomad, love their products. But wipe all that down and everything, and then that's when the shells come off and everything off the vault, and then I can start tuning, changing heads, and that's when I start assembling, putting the shells on the rack and everything, so the cymbals and all that.
It sounds like that setup doesn't change really show to show. It's pretty much log. You guys have like a science, it sounds like.
Yeah. There's a science until it's broken, in the fashion of like doing direct support shows like for Wallen and Nickelback and Hardy, and so we're doing all those kind of direct support short slots to where we don't have as much stage space. So then that's when you kind of have to like do a little bit of adapting again, you know, and then you're changing up the way that you set things up. And then I'm shoved in like a back corner or in a back hallway of a stadium for a Luke Bryan show, you know, and then I'm fighting rain and stuff like that, you know. So it's all that stuff that goes into that, you know, that you kind of, again, it's adaptability, and you just have to roll with the punches and make it happen.
Well, and again, that shows that relationship between the tech and the drummer has to be one that's forged in trust, because if you're in that if I'm in that situation as a drummer, I'm stressing my balls off going, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's this other guy's problem. And like, this other guy's problem wouldn't cut it for me in my mind. But the fact that it is your problem and they're able to do that is just a testament to your ability.
Yeah. Thanks, man. So, yeah. It's a great relationship, man. All the drummers that I've been able to work for and had the privilege of having their backs out on the road and them trusting me to maintain their gear, you know, because we know, us all being drummers here, we know how expensive this gear is. Whether you're endorsed or not, like, you have to maintain your gear out on the road visually and physically and like just sonically too. Like, if you're not maintaining it down to even the bearing edges and making sure that they're not out of round from getting put in and out of the cases because the shell got bent, you know, for some reason, or it got warped from the heat in the truck, you know, like all of that stuff goes into it. And then all of a sudden you have this weird warble coming from the bottom head and you're like, this didn't sound like this last week. You know what I mean? And so it's just a science, you know, that you have to sit there and just stay on top of, you know, and it's, you got to control the drums. They can't control you, you know? Yeah. 100%. And that's where that confidence comes in again too.
So it sounds like you've spent a ton of time on your own practicing and getting comfortable with the drums themselves, the instrument,
absolutely.
Right?
You got to create a relationship.
To, right?
It's a weird thing, like to sit there and like, you know, talk about creating a relationship with an inanimate object, you know, but it's like,
as your wife is sitting right
exactly. Yeah. But it's, it's weird, man, you know, to have an object like that control, you know, just as you are if you were like a, you know, mechanic on a line, you know, doing car parts, or those items are your livelihood, you know? So for me to create that kind of bond and relationship with them to where I know every little piece and part that goes into how they work and how they, you know, operate on a daily basis, like that's what's going to set me ahead of the curve when something happens, and then I'm just standing there not knowing what's going on because I didn't know that part existed. You know,
I'm sure you have to also stay on top of trends and like new pieces of gear, new hardware.
Absolutely.
What's like, you know, you're not new to this, of course. I want to get into your time with Jim Riley too. What's like, just generally speaking, some trends that you've seen with drum setups, or even like some cool new accessories maybe that you've had to deal with? Yeah,
I love to stay on top of the times personally too, even just for my own personal use. But like, I've always been a gearhead, and that's what really helped me with this job too. A lot of drummers that I come across aren't. They don't know the current products that are happening. They don't know what can make their lives easier. I was even talking to Dan earlier about, he was saying having back pain and stuff. Like, you know, we use Motion Pro thrown out on the road, you know, and he's a chiropractor from California. He made those thrones, you know, specifically for drummers and tattoo artists and stuff that are sitting for long periods of time, you know, and it's the same kind of like a head glide kind of design. It has the split down the middle, but his has the shocks underneath. So he has spring coils that are underneath the throne, and it helps absorb, you know, the shock from your waist because all of the inertia sits on there. And that's what causes all the lower back pain and up into your shoulders and everything. So as soon as I found that product, it just changed my life, you know, and it literally,
that might be the most important drum product out there.
Absolutely.
Before you even get to the drums.
Absolutely. Especially for those, if you're doing the doubles and triples downtown and everything, we've all been there, you know, doing the quads and stuff. I mean, it's
I stick to singles. Single pad.
Well,
I've never gone above a triple. Quads.
I've done a couple quads, and it's not fun. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, and you know, so but honestly, it made it 10 times better as soon as I incorporated that product in there, and it, I mean, even just my playing, the way my arms moved around the kit and everything, it just opened everything up for me and made my arm base spread out wider and everything, and it's amazing. All
right,
dude.
I gotta try it. I gotta try it.
I got one at home. I'll bring one by. We'll hang out, and you can try it out. Okay. But great product. But anyways, those kind of products that exist that drummers don't utilize and don't know that they even exist in this.
Don't even think about it.
They can save you so much time and stress and lack of, you know, of energy and all of this that can just make your life so much easier while you're playing and while you're on the road servicing and teching drums, you know?
Yeah.
So it's so important, at least for me, you know, speaking for myself, to stay current with the times, you know, look at new products that are coming out, you know, in our industry and in our drumming world and community that I can utilize to make life easier out on the road and to keep, you know, the kit sounding great and looking great. And so super important.
That's why you're at the drum show. It's part of it, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
No better chance to see stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your drum key of choice if you have one?
So I actually started weird. I'm going to actually make a social media video of this in the next coming weeks, but, Gibraltar makes one now, and it's like a multi-tool. So it has a drum key spot on the long rod part, and then it has the wing nut spot to where you can lock onto the wing nut and twist it tight. And then it also has the bolt pattern on the other side. So it has the 3 different attachments on there. So that way I can literally tighten the whole rack down in like 2 minutes. All the wing nuts, all the bolts, all the little, it's all right on that key. Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
So I've really been enjoying that one. I wear a harness out on the road with my walkie and everything, and I keep that in that front pocket, and I grab it constantly. That
sounds like Pearl makes like a tech tool, which sounds like it's like a multi-use kind of thing. Yeah, those are great.
Yep, same thing. Yeah. So that one's been a favorite of mine lately.
Yep.
Yeah. But other than that, I really like the kind of like the marching key ones, like the big tension.
High tension keys.
High tension keys. Yeah. I love those, man. They got the girth to them, you know.
I need the high tension key, man.
Yeah.
I want my snare to crack and blow your eardrums out. That's what I want. So I need that high tension key.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah.
How about snares? What are you seeing on the road?
We're using all Truth custom drums. Stuff out on the road.
It's a new
with Max and Bailey.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. So
Kid looks freaking unbelievable.
Yeah.
What's the finish? It's like a gold, right?
Yeah, it's a white broken glass finish, and then it's got the gold hardware.
So nice.
And then we're using 14 by 6.5 bronze snare for the main, and then we're using 14 by 6.5 copper for the side, and that gets like the big dry gush, you know, that we get for 2 of the tunes for the set. Yeah. But the main one we crank up pretty high, and I definitely had to crank it up higher than I was comfortable because I was used to tuning like fat country snares, you know, and this is kind of, Max really wanted more of like a modern kind of pop country sound.
Yeah.
I had to kind of be a little versatile there and kind of crank it a few more turns than I'm normally used to.
A few extra half turns.
Yeah, a few more.
Yeah. Yep. A few more, sir.
If I hire you, you'll be hearing a few more times.
Yeah. And that's fine.
They ask for cheese on your pasta dish. Just say when.
Yeah.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
Not even
just
close.
drain that block
just
right there. Yeah.
Give me the. Hey.
Yeah.
It's a white cheese, so you're good.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
You've heard of Drum Supply, but you gotta see their shop. It's a drum shop experience like no other. They're packed with all the gear a working drummer needs, and so many parts, noise toys, and accessories. It's a toy store. Curated cymbals, kits, and snares. The hands-on percussion room is nuts, and their custom shop work is fast and affordable. Andy and the guys know their stuff, and they're ready to help. And the big news? They've just moved to an awesome new location near the corner of East Trinity Lane and Dickerson Pike. Still in East Nashville, just a couple miles from their old spot, the all-new Drum Supply is twice as big, featuring a dedicated cymbal room, a lesson space, and even more drum gear than ever. Go see the new Drum Supply shop for yourself. Now open 11 to 5 at 2211 Dickerson Pike and online at drumsupply.com. Well, I want to go back if that's okay, because I want to talk about you, because this is great. I find the teching thing fascinating, and I did it once as a complete amateur, and it was very, very fun and very stressful.
Yeah.
But I want to hear about your dream, because you said, and I quote, "My dream is to play on stage."
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your whole musical journey, man.
Yeah.
We jumped right into the teching thing,
Yeah.
which is totally
all
great.
all good. That's currently what's happening, so totally understandable.
So did you grow up in a musical family?
I did relatively. My dad's side, no. My mom's side, yes. She was in marching band. She marched saxophone. Yeah, she was in choir. So she was definitely the musical side for me that I got the inspiration from. Yeah, my dad was in big machinery. So that's where I got my work ethic from, you know, and so it was a good balance,
and when
man.
you look at it like that, you're like, that's like if I was going to make a movie character who was going to be a drum tech, born to be a drum tech, you're like,
well, that's true, man. That's true.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah. We're making that movie.
Perfect cast.
That's a $64 million ideas, boys.
Yeah. It's not it'll sell a few tickets.
Yeah.
10 or 12 people will come out to see it. Anyway, continue.
But yeah, she was the musical side. Then I had a hankering for it, man. I remember I learned in church, as a lot of guys do. So I remember going to youth group and just watching the youth drummer, just play drums. And I just was enamored, you know, I was just taken back, immediately got drawn to it. I remember going up and asking him after the service to teach me. And I remember sitting behind that kit for the first lesson that he gave me, and I just felt like it was a spaceship. You know what I mean? It just everything was just so cool looking, and it just gave me the desire to just want to hit them and like just hear the sounds and like, you know. So it was a really cool journey, like just from the very get go. And I guess my parents told me that I grew up like beating on pots and pans and stuff too. I always had that urge, you know, and had a little like, you know, Fisher Price toy set and stuff like that, you know. So, and my grandparents told me I used to play along like to the songs when they would sing karaoke and stuff like that on like the little drum set and stuff. So that's kind of how that all got started. And then, led into middle school and high school where I did pretty much all the band programs. And it was cool because I went to a entertainment, like it was a entertainment middle school. Like it was they had like the round, you know, where you could try out different instruments and stuff like that. It was a fine arts, you know, kind of middle school. It was specifically meant for music programs and art programs.
Damn, that sounds awesome.
You know, it was great. So
we need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I specifically went for that, and then did marching band and concert band and stuff in middle school. And then
what did you march on?
I did tenors. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So did that through high school, and then I also did a show choir band. It was called Showcase, and it was a 9-piece band. We played behind a couple singers. It was, you know, guy girl, and we would do top 40 stuff and, you know, show choir stuff. And so it was cool. And I even got to play with brass players and stuff like that, which is a whole different experience with doing hits and stabs and, you know, so, and then that led me into playing at Busch Gardens, Tampa, and doing it for the theme park there.
So that was right after high school.
Yep. I took about a year off after graduation, trying to figure out how to network and stuff like that. And so I kept playing in church. And then the choir director at the church I was attending called me one day because I was completely miserable because I've taken that year off and not playing at all. I just woke up miserable, and I knew something wasn't right, and I knew something like I just something inside of me, there was a chemical imbalance going on that I just wasn't happy. Yeah. So I got that phone call from the choir director at the church, and he said that they needed a contemporary drummer for their services at the church. And so that led me into that, and I was able to build my chops back up again. And it immediately just woken that side of me, you know, again, to where I was just like, okay, now I feel right again, you know? And, so that was a blessing. And then I went and auditioned for Busch Gardens and got that gig and was doing all the day shows and everything there, sight reading and reading drum charts and stuff like that, which was a whole new avenue for me, you know. I studied it a little bit in high school and stuff like that, but it was very minimal, you know. Right. So it was cool getting to dive into that and kind of, you know, touch up and brush up on that and make that a thing as well. So, so that was a great experience. And honestly, that's what like kind of carved me into the musician that I am today. That was a huge part of it. Was I was playing with, again, brass players that were in original Broadway productions with like, you know, Phantom of the Opera and stuff like that. And then one of the saxophone players played with Frankie Valli back in the day. Wow. And so I was playing with those guys, you know, they were in the industry 30, 40 plus years. And, you know, they were straight up told me like, man, you are overplaying and you think that you're just the, you know, the hottest thing, you know, here, and you are not, dude. Yeah. And you just need to back it off and not put all your cards on the table and just vibe with us, you know, and just be a pocket player. And that was the first time I'd heard that, you know, and been told that. And I admired those guys so much that it just stuck with me. And that's what just created that environment and that kind of, situation for me to thrive in, and what kept getting me rehired again, thankfully. Yeah. So
there's something that I feel like the whole like be a pocket player seems to have become some sort of like controversy.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's very controversial. And there are people who will bludgeon you with that phrase because they don't like what you're doing musically. And because they don't like what you're doing, they'll be like, well, it's not pocket.
Yeah.
But there are other people who just rightly perceive that like you're just not locked in, man. Like, and you need those people in your life. Yeah. And God bless those people who are like, hey, dude, that was whack. So I'm sorry, you were not locked in. And you gotta lock it in if you want to be a pro. That's it.
Yeah. Especially as a young player. I mean, you need to be surrounded by those.
It came at the perfect time in my life.
You, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was in that kind of situation and I was hired, at that park for a reason and was able to be subjected to that harsh reality of, like, hey, if you want to thrive in this industry and you want to be the player that you think you are, then you need to get back to the groundworks of things and stop playing flashy fills every 4 bars and thinking that you're, that you're somebody,
The thing is like those, if you're always playing it, then it's almost like you're kind of never playing it. And and the thing is, if you're not landing them, like overplaying is a thing only to me insofar as it surpasses what the enjoyment of the band.
Yeah.
Collectively, because you're playing with other people, and where you're objectively no longer locked in.
Yeah.
And that's like, if you can keep it locked in and keep the band having a blast, then there is no level at which it's overplaying. That's my personal opinion.
That's a good definition. I
feel
like agree with that.
Like, he did exactly what I wanted him to do. Yeah, it was great. Like nobody can say, like, an audience member could be like, he's overplaying, and they'd be like, no, he wasn't, because that's what we want.
Right. If you go to a free jazz thing where everyone is overplaying, but they're not. That's the gig.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, and then the caveat to that is the mutual respect on stage for your fellow musicians. Right. Like, because you can throw them off and completely make them have a bad night when they're having such a great show personally.
Totally.
We're the loudest instrument on stage unless you have a loud guitar cab, to your right.
Totally.
But I mean, like,
giving the vocalist the wrong fill.
It's a responsibility.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
We have a role to serve.
Yeah.
Well, more than any
I'm
other
the skeleton,
musician.
and I decided to be real jagged on these guys.
Yeah.
I don't want a jagged skeleton.
Yeah. There's a lot of cracks in that foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that house is going to be coming down soon. Yeah.
All right, give us if you remember your first kit and when that was.
It was a Tama Superstar, and it was a silver chrome finish, and it was like the big rock tom sizes. Yeah, and it was awesome, man. I saved up for months and months. I was mowing lawns in my neighborhood and saved up money, but I didn't account for the taxes. Yeah. So we went to Sam Ash and I saw it and fell in love with it, which is super cool now because I own an 80s wood fiberglass pearl kit that Billy Baker actually refinished, and it's silver chrome finish. Yeah. So I got to reminisce a little bit and have that new kit,
When we are young and we sit on a drum set that we're excited about, we're inspired, we often find ourselves feeling like one of our heroes. Yeah. Who did you feel like playing on that chrome Tama kit?
It was Taylor Hawkins for me, man.
Cool.
Yeah. I loved Foo Fighters. I grew up on, that and Paramore and, I just loved rock, man, as every drummer does, because it's loud and aggressive and it's very drum based, so hearing Yellow Card, Ocean Avenue for the first time and just trying to replicate that, in my bedroom was just so fun for me,
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was definitely, Taylor Hawkins for me,
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey drummers, do you need a place in Nashville to practice on actual drums? Drumbox is Nashville's newest drum practice studio. Book sessions online and get the space to yourself. It's fully equipped with 2 kits, cymbals, hardware, and even sticks are provided. 30-minute, 1-hour, and 2-hour sessions are available at www.drumbox.space. and use the coupon code NDP25 for 25% off your first session. Again, that's www.drumbox.space.
When did Nashville come into the picture?
So it was 2017. So I started networking with Rich Redmond and Jim Riley over socials when I was still living down in Florida. Just started messaging through Facebook and stuff. And so then I was going to do Jim Riley's drum dojo camp. Yeah. So had that scheduled to come up here and study with him. And then I got in a bad car wreck. It put me in the hospital. I was coming home from rehearsals at Busch Gardens, and lady came across, the road and collided with each other, and totaled my truck at the time, and it put I had bad bone bruising in my right arm, and I couldn't play. It hurt really bad. And put me out of work for about a month because I was playing full time down there too. So I had to reschedule with him, and I was going to be staying with John Hall from Rich Redmond at the time. And so I called him and I was like, hey, man, I'm going to have to reschedule this and do it at a different date. And he was like, all good, man. Like, totally understand, hope you feel better. And he was like, hey, why don't you think about just moving up here, And so, he was like, you're already networking with these guys and creating relationships, and so I was like,
two good guys to initially network with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim and Rich. I mean,
for sure.
We're excited. We're talking to Jim here soon.
Cool.
I'm very excited for that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Both of those guys are such idols for me growing up too,
Good mentors. Right.
And then getting to work for Jim, then in return and getting to hear all the flats hits and stuff like that.
Dude, I want to hear that story.
Yeah.
You got to fill in on some of those gigs too, right? With Gary?
Yep. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah.
What an experience.
It was great, man. We had such a fun time together. Like it was such a cool experience to go through because again, he was such a mentor of mine, and then it ended up being us becoming such good friends. And the fact that Craig Krulicki was with him for the whole years of flats, and then for that final tour to come through, and Craig was going to go over to FGL and not do the final flats tour. And then I got the call to do that. And Jim called me personally for that. It's just so cool to me, because it was just that, again, that trust factor and that relationship of the drummers trusting you to do what you say you're going to do, and what you're hired to do.
Is that like a core memory of you picking up the phone, Jim calling you for that gig?
For sure. Yeah. I was working at Bass Pro at the time, and I was sitting in the office doing training on the computer, being absolutely miserable. Yeah. And he called me out of the blue and was like, hey, would you be willing to do the final flats tour, and tech for me out on the road? And I was like, whoa, like I thought it was a dream, honestly. I was like, I had to pinch myself and everything. And of course COVID came through and messed that up. And, but then he kept calling me for certain things, and we were going to do a CMT Crossroads gig. And again, COVID came through and messed that up. And then finally got a third call. He needed a tech for the Gary, lock stuff of him doing that on his own. And so finally made it happen. And then I did that for almost 3 years. Yeah. And then ended up stepping up, TMing for Gary for a while, and taking on more responsibility and diving into that avenue. Cause I'm just like a sponge, man. I love this industry. I love every element of it. And I love being well-rounded because, having job security is such an awesome thing to experience, in this industry. And like, it doesn't come lightly, you have to earn that, because everyone is fireable. Everyone is replaceable. It's just the hardcore reality of the industry that we're in and why we're the 1%ers of the world that get to do it on this level. Yeah. It's the equivalent of being in the NFL for us, So the fact that you can make yourself more hireable, more desirable by management teams and stuff like that, and diving into different elements and being willing to open up your world and not just say, oh, well, I'm just a drum tech or I'm just a drummer. Like, be more well-rounded and dive into other, worlds and elements that are there to offer you, and
expand your worldview.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Got to expand it and open up that mindset and be willing to just take everything in, whether you end up using that knowledge or not. Like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because you still get to have that education and have that in your back pocket if anything ever happened, because out on the road, you just never know. I mean, it's that adaptability and, and being able to roll with the punches and if you can sit there and make yourself more of an asset to the team that you're with at that time and in the future, it also builds a great name for yourself in town and makes more people have your phone number, makes more people contact you, get more gig offers and stuff like that. It all ties in together.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That comes up so much on this in terms of becoming more hireable.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, how have you navigated that in terms of not overstepping, like still knowing your role, but like you said, still going the extra mile in certain avenues,
Yeah, for sure, man. It's definitely a fine line to cross because there's a way to be disrespectful about it because then you're stomping on other people's toes unintentionally, even if not meaning to do it. It can still happen, and unfortunately, this community is so small that even if it gets interpreted the wrong way, then word can spread, and then you become the guy that oversteps and that is overbearing, and whatever the case may be, and you weren't even meaning to do that, so you got to be really careful about that stuff, and it's not a complaint. It's just it is what it is, It's one of those things where you just have to be really lighthearted and methodical about it a little bit, and you kind of have to have a game plan of how you're going to approach it before you just kind of like, hey, let's do this, because then you're coming off as this is only my idea and this is my way or the highway. And like, you know what I mean? Like, right. Yeah. And that's just never going to come off right. You
had, Eric Pritchard. Mm-hmm. I think he said it best. It's just like the way you communicate is so important.
Absolutely.
And like what you just said of like, you may have a great idea, but making it seem like it's everyone's idea.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah. Or just giving it a pass by, you know what I mean? Not necessarily
how to give feedback that may be negative on the surface, but make it a positive. Like, hey, that's a great idea, but we're going to dial it back a bit instead of just outright saying like,
let's woodshed it a little bit. Let's think about it. Like we don't have to incorporate it this weekend or anything, let's talk about it some more if everyone's feeling good about it. I've done that so many times with front of house guys because we have to have such a relationship as well. Because they're responsible for getting the tones out in front of house just as much as I am sonically and acoustically on stage. Yep. So to have that bond and relationship to sit there and say, hey, let's incorporate these products, or let's use this dampening, or let's use these heads that are more dry compared to more bright, like to run that through front of house guys and make them feel included in those choices and what you're doing on stage is going to make their job so much easier out front. And it's going to make them feel so much better about what's going on as a big picture, because it's all a team effort to make that show happen, and if you're not communicating, and if you're not voicing what you want to do as an individual to make it a team effort, then it's never going to come across as you being a team player.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's interesting, right? Because the big picture is obviously, right, the gig, the performance, the tour. Yep. But you have all these people that all have these very specialized roles, down to the players, of course, that, they're worried about the songs and the parts. And then you have the lighting director, you have playback. But like if everybody's thinking about it as a full picture, that's how you have a successful. Yeah. That's how it all comes together. Right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you dealing with like microphones and stuff?
I do help. Yeah. So that's another thing. Yeah. I noticed that I was getting done way early for show days, and I just had plenty of time, after getting the kit set up and everything, being so blessed to not have to set up the rack each time. That kills a lot of my time. Yeah. So I started taking over setting up the drum mics and everything for the monitor engineer. And so that helped him out.
That's a perfect example. It's like, hey, I'm realizing I have some free time. Yep. And I'm sure you handled it. You communicated it in a good way. You didn't just start grabbing mics. You're like, hey man, like I want to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was super thankful for it and everything. Yeah. And now it's become my everyday, thing, it's part of my setup, and, it helps him out because he's got way more of a workload than I do. Yeah. And I immediately noticed that. And again, it's just picking up, it's not slack. It's just picking up extra work that you can alleviate off of other guys and be respectful and know that everyone's going through the same thing you are. And if I can cause a few less sweat drops and stress for him, every day, that's what I'm here for.
So, good on you, man. That's awesome to hear.
And likewise, when something in your world becomes more complex, then your team members are then more likely to be like, hey, remember when he helped me out every single day at this thing?
Yeah,
exactly. I think I'll give him a hand.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It always comes back around, man. Every time. And you never know when you're going to need it. And then when you do need it, it's there, you know, and you earned that, you know, and it's such a great feeling to have that across the board. And that's what makes from the ladder down such a great team, you know, conform and do this together, you know, because when everyone's doing that and that same mentality and that same drive, like it's such a beautiful thing.
It's,
you know?
dude, that synergy, the synergy of a good team is like electric.
Yeah.
You know it when you're with me.
Yeah.
This, we're like unstoppable.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
All irons in the fire. Everything's just working as just as it should. Like it's, man, it's so cool.
This show's going to happen and nothing can stop it.
Yep.
Asteroid.
Yeah. Gremlins.
Yeah. Gremlins. Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to account for, you know, giant natural events and goblins.
So I want to go back to working with Jim and then back to, as you said, like the dream of performing. Tell us about that experience of getting to, were you a sub on the Gary gig or you were the drummer for some shows, or how did that work?
So I didn't actually get to sub in. So the shows that I was going to sub in for actually ended up getting canceled. We were going to do it in Texas. But just to get that nod from Jim to trust me to take over that drum throne spot, like that was it for me.
That's crazy.
You know, like it was, I mean, any big name in town could have taken over that spot, you know, and they would have loved that, you know. So that was really cool getting to get that nod from him and to have him trust me like that. And that's the cool thing and kind of the end goal of like me maintaining this teching stuff too, is that like you're the first one in line to know the show immediately. And if you're a good enough drummer and have your chops together of you know, while you're out on the road, like if something happens, you're it.
God forbid.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And we've seen that happen so many times, you know. So it's really cool for me to be in that world too of like I'm the first guy in line, you know, to take over, you know, a gig like that. And then obviously that would be a dream of mine, you know, for it to happen. And I'm looking forward to that. But right now I'm currently building out a studio. I bought a 12 by 16 shed, and I was just doing joint compound and taping today, you know, the drywall and stuff. And so I'm soundproofing it in, and it's going to be separate off of the house and everything, and I can record it anytime. And
we should talk to Taylor about, again, shout out to Garden Groove. We're so lucky to be in this beautiful space.
Yeah, beautiful space, man. Yeah.
We don't say it enough, but this place is great.
Yeah.
This place is the shit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm doing currently, and that's going to be my kind of getaway. You know, that's going to be my creative space of me doing full-time teching and stuff like that. And that's where I'm at right now. And then I'll be able to come home and be creative and do videos and hopefully, you know, get a network of artists sending me files, me tracking over them and sending them back, you know, and being creative like that. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Man. Yeah. I'm excited for you. Having that space is step
thanks,
one.
Man. Yeah, I'm very awesome. Excited about it.
And like, you're going to be so well equipped because you're coming in having all this knowledge of, do you understand microphones, and the drums obviously is a given, and that's going to be awesome. Yeah. I'm very excited about it. Good fuel behind you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not really much that could be thrown at you in that situation where you'd be at some sort of impasse. Right?
Yeah.
I've handled all of this. Good. We're good to go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and I'm excited to learn new stuff too. Like even like, you know, like just upgrading gear and stuff like that, and getting to learn more about what works and what doesn't, you know, even just for my personal situation, and like what sounds good in the room, what doesn't, you know. It's like it's all that kind of stuff that's just so cool to get to experience, you know, and get to woodshed and workshop, and you know, so I'm excited to get to do that and dive into that world, because it's just never ending, just as much as everything else is. You know, drumming world is never ending. That's why I was so excited to learn this instrument, because the world of percussion doesn't just stop at drum set. You know what I mean? Like you have marimba and xylophone and Latin percussion. And I mean, it's just, I've had so many people ask me, you know, oh, do you play another instrument? No, I just always play drums. And they were like, don't you get bored? Don't you? How can you get bored? I mean,
you don't understand what this entails.
I mean, timpani. I mean,
that's like saying, well, if to like an ocean explorer, don't you ever get bored of it? Like, no. Yeah. Do you know how much fucking ocean there is?
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
There's a lot of it. Yeah. There's a lot to just use the word drums. Yeah. And
I defy you to get bored.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any ocean explorers, Nate?
Oh, not lately. Not lately.
Okay.
But I've known a few. I know a few.
Thought
in
I
my
would
day.
ask. Yeah. Is that the title, Ocean Explorer?
Ocean Explorers. The title of this one is something like, or at least the hallmark of this conversation and seemingly of your approach in your career is that you got to kind of start before you're ready. And you just got to go and be ready to ask questions. So like, I'm not afraid to, you said not even you weren't afraid. You were excited to learn the aspects of setting up the studio, the stuff that you hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, myself included, there's a prohibitive aspect to stuff like that where it's like, what if I get the gear and then there's a snag here and then I don't know what the heck I'm doing and then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
But you don't really have that in you.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think it just strives from getting so many no's in this industry and getting humbled so many times, because as soon as I would get comfortable and then as soon as I would get in my own skin and feel like I was on top of the world, I would immediately get dropped down to ground zero again. And we've all been through that.
Totally.
This industry is very notorious for that. And that's why depression is such a big thing in this industry. And that's why we're all struggling with things and mentalities and, and egos and all that. It all ties in, and that's a whole separate thing. But, it's all relative to that. As soon as you can take that humbling and make it such a positive thing and be able to get up back onto your feet again and be able to dive into something and be successful at it and know that you went from here to here, and to see that journey through that's what makes you a stronger person and what makes you have those moments of success. And then you're like, I did that all myself. You know what I mean? And then that's when all of that hesitation and all of that, the fear, living in fear and all that stuff, of failure and, and all that, it slowly dissipates, it never fully goes away, but it's one of those things where you're just not fearful of what could happen because you're controlling the narrative, and to a certain point,
Right.
Obviously life happens and you get hit with punches and, and stuff like that. And, but again, just being able to strive through that and keep that determination flowing because you can see the end goal.
Right.
That's such a good mentality to have, especially in this industry.
Vital in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to your journey of, Busch Gardens when you described those older musicians kind of giving it to you straight.
Yeah.
We all get knocked down, but it's how you get yourself back up.
Yep.
Because you could have easily been like, screw these guys. I am the shit.
It could have crippled me, because I was so young, and I didn't know any better. And I wanted to aim to please because I had a lot to prove. And, and that's what stemmed into me overplaying too, because I just thought I had to just wail on the kit all the time and just do all of these sick fills, to try and prove myself. And it just doesn't need to be that way. Oh, yeah. I don't know. We'll go back and look at old videos. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, it's just one of those things, man. You gotta get back on your feet and you gotta show them what you're made of and just keep pushing through all those challenges because it's not worth giving up, not living out what you wanted to live out.
Yeah.
Fail forward.
Yeah. I love that.
That's one of my favorites.
That's cool.
I'm like, yeah, you're going to win and you're going to learn.
Yep.
Fail forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Back to the Bailey Zimmerman tour. Give us any memorable, really standout shows so far this year. You started at CMA, which is probably a crazy way to start.
Yeah.
But you guys have been playing all these crazy arenas, and you over in Europe as well with them.
I was on it right after that. They came back from Europe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any I don't know, any standout shows where it was just like, wow, this is unbelievable? Or have they all been like that for you?
They pretty much have all been like that. It's so cool being in something so current. And he's such a great artist, and he is down to the core one of the nicest guys that I've ever worked for.
I just want to meet his dog. His dog's beautiful.
Yeah, Marley's great. Marley, she creates a great work environment. She's always running around with a big smile on her face. But yeah, so that's an extra bonus. But he's just so cool to work for, and he's so young and he's so mature. Which is just so crazy, We were standing side stage at CMA Fest, and they were chanting his name and stuff like that before we went on stage. That was the only time that happened that whole night, and there was a massive lineup that night. Yeah, and I knew right then, that moment, I knew this was something special.
Yeah,
and so I walked over to him. and he was getting ready to go on stage, and I was like, hey man, look out there, man. You know, like you earned this. This is really, really cool. Yeah. The first thing he said to me was, we got a lot of work to do. You know, and it's
a
just
cool moment for you.
Yeah, he's got such a great mentality, and just his journey alone is just so cool to be a part of. You know, of him only being in music for 3 years. You know, and he's already got 4 #1 singles on country radio. He's just a great human being to work for. Yeah, you know, and Max is amazing. You know,
we're gonna have Max on for sure. I can't wait to learn more about him. He seems, like you said, same. Yep. Super humble, super nice. Yeah, I just got to meet him briefly at the show.
Yeah. Get ready for your faces to hurt, man. You'll be smiling for the whole time. And he's just a crazy cool guy, and just life of the room, man. Yeah. So it's just super cool to be a part of this whole crew and to be a part of this journey. And like, we're just getting started, which is the best part. Yeah. You know, they plan on getting back in the studio on the off time and putting out another album. And I'm excited to see what comes out of that, you know, and keep this progression flowing. It's so crazy to be a part of this right now, you know, at this time, you know, and to see everything come into fruition from it.
It must be cool for you to go from a veteran act of Jim Riley and Rascal Flatts and Gary to, like you said, literally modern pop country in the moment. Like you're watching this guy's career grow.
Yeah. And it's not to down, you know, the past acts and stuff like that. Because even Billy Currington, he was still packing out amphitheaters and stuff like that. And, you know, and it was great working for Jamie. And, you know, he was an amazing drummer. That's the cool part about this position, too, is that I get to sit behind these drummers and watch them play their asses off every night, you know what I mean? Exactly. And get to see their different like styles and techniques and I get to learn from them in real time as the show is going on. Yeah. And I get to, it's almost like on the job training. Yeah. Like, you know, it's getting to watch a clinic happen right in front of me, you know, and I'm getting to watch the choices that they make and the fills that they do. And like, they're on those gigs for a reason. And that's to be said very loudly because they've earned that spot and they maintain it. I mean, Jamie he's been on that Currington gig for 22 years, something like that, 20 years. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's just amazing to get to see these guys maintain these gigs, play for the gigs, keep the relationships. I get to suck all that in and incorporate that in my own professional life.
Dude, that's so cool. Yeah. That's awesome. I know you want to ask about his tattoos.
I do. You're correct.
I want to ask about his tattoos.
Okay. First of all, obviously, I'm sitting over here. I'm seeing these guys first. But the first one that actually stood out to me is the skull.
Yeah. So that's the death mark from Harry Potter. Yeah, Deathly Hallows. So a little nod to that. I grew up watching those movies.
Nice.
So I just remember every summer they would come out, you know, and we would be at the beach on vacation and stuff from school, and we would that was just the highlight of every summer. Yeah. You know, and we would go watch those, and it's a big franchise that I grew up on. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I was curious. And, all right. Cool.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the spooky world, and Halloween's my favorite time of the year. So then I incorporated all the rest of it.
My dude.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Cut from the same cloth.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Favorite scary movies?
I'm going to say Saw. The Saw franchise is definitely number one for me. That was one of the first ones that kind of got me into that, you know. And then, let's see. I really like House of a Thousand Corpses and stuff, like the, you know, Rob Zombie.
Yeah, really intense. Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, all the Halloweens and everything. That's always been huge for me. Yeah. So that's,
I like Rob's Halloween remake. Yeah.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah. It's really intense, but it's quite good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Right on. Yeah, I love October. I'm like, all right, it's time to get spooky. I've been trying to figure out. I'm trying to find new scary movies each year. Try to go back and watch classics I haven't seen. I'm like, right.
Excited about the new Beetlejuice coming out?
I am.
Yeah,
I am. I wasn't as big into Beetlejuice as my friend group was when I was younger, but in recent years, I've become a fan. I finally watched the whole thing with my wife. Yeah, and she said some crazy stuff to me while we were watching. She was like, "Oh, you know what? I realized I haven't seen this. I think I saw this. I saw the second one. Like, there isn't a second one. You are crazy. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah. Then I had to prove it to her by showing her on IMDb. But we watched Lord of the Rings
all the way up to about the last 15 minutes of the movie, of the first movie, and she goes, "Oh, wait, I've seen this. No, I have seen this."
Well, and those are like 5 hours long, aren't they? Yeah.
Why did I just commit this time to this thing? And then she's like, "But I haven't seen the second one." You think that was true?
I don't trust.
We get about 25 minutes to the ending of that movie, which is another at least 2.5 freaking hours. She goes, "Oh no, I have seen this."
Yeah.
Like, yo,
the man did not get any.
She goes, "But I haven't seen the
day.
third one." I said, "I don't believe you, and I'm not going to watch it."
Yeah.
with you.
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, really?
Never watched them.
You should give
give them a shot.
Give them a watch. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not one of those guys that's like crazy about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But you should definitely give it a watch.
Yeah. I mean, they're super popular for a reason. So,
Totally.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that anyone that wants to talk smack about Harry Potter,
Yeah.
I mean,
get out of here.
I got something for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, in the same way, I think you would enjoy Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, cool.
What's your favorite Harry Potter movie?
Probably Deathly Hallows. Honestly,
Part 1 or 2, right? There's 2.
it's hard because they tie in together and it's
Right,
just
yeah.
like, it's a big story. So,
It is a
but I
big
think
story,
2 was probably, it was just it was the way they changed it up and it was so dark and almost morbid,
I love
that
that
you
one,
would never seen before from that franchise, and then there was a lot
The
of
mentors, right?
Yeah, for sure. So that was,
Did you read the books?
mm-mm.
So my good friend Hillary Dodson, so shout out Hillary, who she'll probably never hear this because she don't. I don't think she probably ever even knows that I have this.
love you,
but I love Hillary.
She doesn't even know
Nice.
who you are.
Yeah.
Whatever. We haven't talked in a long time. But she and I were buddies back in California, and she was obsessed with these books.
Yeah.
And she read them over and over. And then one day I said, I talked about how I read the first 3 and part of the 4th. And then she said, "Oh, well, then you've read none of them." And then when I went and read them all, I understood because really, this is brilliant. This is what she did. Tolkien, we're going tied in Tolkien here again. Tolkien wrote The Hobbit, and then like 20 years later, he wrote Lord of the Rings for the kids who grew up reading The Hobbit. The Hobbit was a kid's book.
Okay.
She did that in real time. She wrote Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone in England, and that was for kids, and they got successively more mature until you reached the end. Like she grew the books up with the readers. It was genius, genius. Anyway.
Which then tied into the film series, and then it grew up with those kids starting out as kids, and then the more mature the movies got, the more mature they got. Like it's amazing how that whole franchise tied in together, and they had such great directors, and it's just crazy, man. Like there's a reason why it's a world phenomenon, and it's not going anywhere.
No, it's not going anywhere.
It's just timeless, and it's just such a cool. Yeah, it's such a cool thing.
Yep.
I'm glad we got to grow up on it.
Yeah,
we were literally in prime time with all that. So it's one of those things. Like even with our parents, with like Woodstock and stuff like that.
Totally.
Like it's we didn't get to experience that. Would we love to? Of course, but we weren't born then. So like
we got
hey, snooze, you lose.
So
that's true.
Yeah.
But I am holding out hope.
Yeah.
That somebody like a Netflix or Hulu will pick Harry Potter up and then go, I'm going to go book accurate and make a whole series, like a full, like spending, rather than being like, we'll make a 2-hour movie, be like, essentially we've got 5 hours of a show for just one book. You can get a lot. There are whole characters that we didn't even talk about that were cool. We should have talked about them. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Well, along the lines of movies and non-drumming hobbies, if you weren't drumming or if you're not drumming, what are some of the things that kind of tick your...
I never really gave myself a second option, so that helped.
Good answer.
Helped a lot, with my determination. Same reason why I never went back to Florida until I played there with an artist here.
Yep.
I knew as soon as I would start going back home again, I would get comfortable again, and then I would just give up. The whole Nashville dream thing, because it's as soon as things get tough and then you start playing hometown gigs again, you're like, oh, well,
it's not that bad.
Yeah. I didn't give myself that, but I love drawing. I'll draw like Disney characters and stuff like that, and like I started actually drawing them on like drum heads and stuff like that for fun. And that was really cool. Kind of tied it in together. Yeah. I love mowing the grass. That's a lot of fun for me. I love smoking cigars. I'm a big cigar guy. Love bourbons. I'm an old soul at heart, so.
You're a drummer's drummer.
Yeah.
Well, bourbon and cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Hard combo to beat, man.
Yep.
Really
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so that's
I don't
a few of them.
I don't drink as much whiskey as I used to.
Yeah,
but
probably stems from downtown because we.
Yeah, I just am tired of how literally it makes me feel. So, but I just still love whiskey very much. So we have quite a nice collection of it that I look at every day.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
admire the bottles.
About once every other month, I'll go. It's a whiskey night.
Yeah,
let's
go.
Yeah.
Give us some of your Nashville or Tennessee, because I know you live a little bit further out, but some food spots where you guys like to go.
Peg leg porker. That's a good one. Best ribs in town.
That's one of your goals, right?
They're so good.
Yeah, I mean,
I forget about that place. Yeah.
Let's see. A lot of them are like just the ones that everyone knows, like Hattie B's and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like they have. Like I prefer Prince's over Hattie B's though.
Good man.
Yeah.
What's your spice level?
The hottest I can do is medium. Yeah. Once I go to hot, it's like not enjoyable anymore.
Yeah.
And you're just drooling all over yourself, and you know it's like, why am I even eating this?
Why torture yourself?
Yeah. I'm not even getting any nutrition value out of this.
No.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not going to get it later on. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah. Being woken up at 3 a.m. to have to take care of that.
Yeah.
That's no bueno.
Yeah.
What in the next year are you most excited about?
Having a child. We are
teed you up perfectly.
Yeah. We are pregnant. And we are due in December, which is a perfect time of the year, by the way.
Yes,
because we're always off on that time of the year, and I don't have to sacrifice missing birthdays or anything unless I'm doing some crazy winter tour, or holiday tour, or whatever.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You got a baby girl coming, huh?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. It's petrifying and crazy and all the waves of emotions, but it's definitely very exciting over everything. So yeah, I'm excited to become a father for sure.
Yeah. What do you think? Sorry, I'm trying to tie in the question. What do you think the first noodle you'll give your child will be?
Noodle? Like
You didn't think I could get in there, did you, ladies and gentlemen? But I did.
Yeah.
Like as in pasta noodle or okay. Probably just like a what's a mac and cheese shell?
Like a macaroni.
Macaroni.
You think he's cooking fettuccine for his baby girl?
Hey, I'm just saying at some point the kid's going to have a noodle.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And what do you think that first noodle's going to be?
Yeah. I will say it's been the only
gonna be
thing.
A totally noodle-free life?
Yeah.
Could be.
She's been skipping around and doing circles in there every time my wife eats mac and cheese. So she's already obsessed with it, and that's the only thing.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great choice, kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's going to have to be, macaroni.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's her choice, not mine. I feel.
Yeah.
And you got to respect it. You know.
Yeah. You're just observing the facts.
Correct.
And,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just relaying what you've observed. I love it.
Yep.
Love it.
Do you have a quote that you think of often or live by?
Everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Yeah. I've always lived by that. It's saved me so many times from, deciphering whether I wanted to take this opportunity or this opportunity. Like everything happens for a reason. Everything ties in the way it's supposed to. Life gives you, lemons and you make lemonade out of it. I mean, it's just, you have to, again, adapt to what life is bringing you, and it's there for a reason. It's put in front of you for a reason. If you chase it and conquer it, then it just brings you complete satisfaction. There's nothing, what more could you ask for?
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
And finally, where would you like people to follow you, if anywhere?
I'd love to grow my Instagram community, man. Like my Facebook is pretty good, but Stefan C Drums, is Instagram handle, and then just Stefan Chippeaux on Facebook. But that's my main two pages. Man, there's so many of those platforms out nowadays, like TikTok and Snapchat and all that. I mean, it's so hard to maintain all of them, and especially in a business aspect, because it's like, I totally respect, the ones that do it and maintain that. It's a full-time job. Yeah. When you're a social media influencer, that's your gig, so you have to do it all the time. So, and I just, I dedicate my time on other aspects of life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like,
But
I don't know what the heck I'm doing with any of this, but I found out that it matters from talking to people. It matters.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so cool, like, just to not, like, get caught up in the numbers. I've had so many depressing moments of, like, putting stuff out, and you do spend a lot of time of like putting videos together, and like whether it's drum covers or time lapse videos of me setting up the kit and stuff like that on the road. Like you do spend time, and then it does hurt when you don't get, you know, the numbers out of it that you think that you're going to get, but just keep posting your stuff, man. And like if the people that will appreciate it and want to be on your page, it's all organic, you know what I mean? There's no reason to try and chase that huge mindset number of just seeing all these influencers and stuff like that. You know, everyone has their own pathway, and they're all, it's your journey, you know, just live it out and enjoy it, you know? No reason to get caught up in that stuff. Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
It's so great to learn your journey. And
it was so great talking with y'all.
To follow with the rest of the year with the camp, and excited for you and your family and the new studio. It's a lot of positives for you. So
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nashville Drummers Podcast. If you liked it, please consider leaving us a review on the Apple Podcast app. Please consider supporting us on Patreon. For $5 a month, you can help support this dream and keep the ball rolling for us. Believe it or not, it's not free or even necessarily cheap for us to make this thing go. To sign up, go to patreon.com/Nashville Drummers Podcast or click the link in our Instagram bio. All of your help is greatly appreciated.
Visit our website, NashvilleDrummersPodcast.com, where you can listen to all past episodes, learn more about myself and Nate, and buy all your favorite Nashville Drummers Podcast merch, including t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, hats, and drum heads. Connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Nashville Drummers Podcast. You must call it a breakthrough.
This episode of the Nashville Drummers Podcast was recorded at Garden Groove Studios.
Tucked away in a private and soundproof studio in East Nashville, Garden Groove was born out of a desire to create a space where musicians, entertainers, teachers, and learners could come together. Garden Groove offers a quiet and relaxed environment for creativity to thrive and grow.
Their mission is seeded to fostering creativity and collaboration among musicians of all levels. In addition to a state-of-the-art recording space, they also offer a range of events and workshops to inspire and connect the community.
Recording, mixing, and mastering services start at just $45 an hour, and professional audio engineering services available for an additional $25 an hour. And exclusive discounts for newsletter subscribers, 25% off your first session when you subscribe.
Visit garden-groove.com to learn more and book a session. That's garden-groove.com.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.